Hey everybody, what's going on? This is wilkyb, and this is a video that I'm breaking down into 3 parts. The first part of this video is going to be me introducing my competitive map, Help I'm a Rock version 4. I'll describe what it's like and what I designed it to be like, and then I'll run it down in a replay so you can see with your eyes the kind of gameplay that I'm trying to produce. And then I'll compare my map with a map committee map, and I'll describe this map according to what I see and how it plays out. And then we'll watch a replay to demonstrate the things that I see, the things that I describe about these maps. The second part of this video is going to be me introducing my standard of proof, which can help map makers determine the complexity of maps with respect to the opening build orders that exist on a map, and how those build orders typically play out. Yeah, which is pretty cool. And that standard of proof is in the form of replays, like you can see here. And something I kind of want to mention quickly is that the standard of proof across this entire genre is basically pointing to the Bible of map making that this map committee have created for users to read. But proof is truly a physical phenomena, which is a reproducible replay. Whereas the Bible of map making, the things that people point me to whenever I don't follow the rules for map making in this community, they're not proof. They're something that somebody wrote, which is not proof. Map committee map making rules are logical, but they're not proof. And so we'll get more into that in the second part of this video. And then the third part of this video is going to be me describing, based on that last part right there, when I ask people for proof in this community, in this genre, people don't want to reproduce proof to disprove the claims that I make. And I think this is something that people generally across the board can probably relate to, is that people refer you to the book of map making instead of actually referring to like proof that disproves the things that people might say. So in a comment section you might see somebody say, hey, your map is busted, player 1 is completely favored. But they won't back it up with a replay. They'll just point to the book of map making, the Bible of map making, which is literally a Bible that everybody follows in this community. So, and lastly, I'll say that you might be thinking, well, Wilkie, if you don't like this game, you should just find a different game to play and just go play that and complain there. But the problem with that is that this map committee exists across this entire genre. So no matter where you go, if you create maps alternate to this map committee and the rules that they have for map making and the Bible that they'll refer you to, you'll never stand a chance at your map reaching a significant audience, a competitive significant audience. And I'm not a big fan of that, because the map committee are supposed to be the group of people who bring significance to significant things. So, yeah, without further ado, we're going to jump into my map here, and I'll go ahead and describe the way that it works. And the way that I have developed maps since I entered this community since day one is according to StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3. And so when I first started making maps on this website, or even before that, when I played in the Global League originally, I couldn't help but notice that maps didn't really play out according to StarCraft 2 like at all. And by that I mean that map committee maps have this problem where you basically just saturate the entire economy towards the center of the map, and then you just start trading pieces kind of like it's chess. So I think map committee maps are a lot more like chess in that respect, but they kind of neglect the economical tit-for-tat development phase, kind of like what exists in StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3, in my opinion. So in StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3, for example, there's a tit-for-tat development phase where your economy and your army kind of develop at the same rate, and then there's times where you can choose, do I want to boost my economy, or do I want to boost my army and attack my opponent? And you take an advantage in one way, in that way, in one of those two ways, typically. And I didn't see that kind of gameplay in map committee maps like at all. And so what I see in map committee maps is that chess-like gameplay. That's what I see in map committee maps across the entire board. And just as a reminder, and I'll stress this point, that map committee maps are like, they all look like this, they all play out the same way, where in the beginning of the game, there is no tit-for-tat development phase like you would see in a game like StarCraft 2. So on map committee maps, you have no worry about being rushed by your opponent at all. Within like the first like 10 turns, and we'll see a recon being rushed on this replay in particular, and it's just really not impactful like at all. Like, this is the only thing that it does, and then it gets shot down by another recon, and then it just hides in a bush somewhere. So it's not very, it's not really scary. It's like if you had like Hellions that met a queen at like a Zerg expansion, and they just blocked you from entering that expansion. It's like really useless. So anyways, this kind of gameplay, to me, it neglects the economic tit-for-tat development phase like you would encounter in a game like StarCraft 2. And so what results is a lot of these maps that are made, well, pretty much every map that's been made by this map committee plays out just like a game of chess, where you saturate. I mean, in chess there is no economy and there is no production of new pieces. But there is that on map committee maps because that's just the way that this game works. And so what happens is you enter you play out like 10 turns of this game without being under threat of your opponent at all, and then you start exchanging pieces at the center of the map like it's a game of chess. And that's what I see when I look at these kinds of maps and I look at these kinds of replays. Yeah, that's just what I see. So, yeah, and the reason why this stuff happens... Oh, well, a few things I'll mention is that by the time it's like turn 10 or turn 11, the entire map has pretty much been like captured and saturated. The entire economy is captured, and so basically you're kind of forced to like trade pieces at the center of the map. You couldn't play like an economic development game at this point because there is no more economic development to do. So you're forced to trade pieces, and you have to do that super efficiently, which is cool. And these maps are competitive and stuff, but personally, I see a different style of map that could be created, that I have been creating for the past 2 years in particular. Well, the past 8 years, I've always made maps according to like StarCraft 2 gameplay. But I'll quickly mention that before I get into my replay. The reason why this kind of gameplay happens on map committee maps is because the bases are located in opposite corners of each other, and you also start with 3 starting bases. So like, if you send a recon to rush your opponent in the early game, it's really not effective, like, at all. It's really only useful for like scouting and maybe poking at the first infantry that, you know, goes too far out on the map. And so resultingly, what happens is across this entire genre of turn-based strategy where this map committee exists, there is no early gameplay. There is no early tit-for-tat gameplay like you would see in StarCraft 2. And that's because the recons take so long, the rushing units take so long to get across the map, and then when there's 3 starting bases for each player, by the time that recon were to ever reach the opposite side of the map, there's going to be like a tank and like a battle copter that's just going to destroy that thing, and the original 4,000 income that you invested into that recon is just never going to get it back. So I've mentioned this stuff since the past 2 years, where I've made recon rushing an actual viable strategy, and the map committee just doesn't like they just don't like me because I don't follow their rules, so they don't listen to anything I say. So, what we're going to do is we're going to look at my map here, and we're going to talk about how I've been developing it according to StarCraft 2. And like I said, just to revise things, is that StarCraft 2, there's a developmental tit-for-tat, and you can kind of capture your economy or capture your army and attack your opponent. And that's how this kind of map goes. So, for those who aren't familiar with this map, truly the way you want to play it, you want to saturate your 2 bases that are diagonal from your spawn point, and then you want to start saturating your economy with infantry, kind of like you do in map committee maps. But the problem on this map is that you can be rushed. You can be rushed by your opponent, and they can delay you from saturating your economy. And if you play too greedy, then your opponent will attack you and you'll lose. And if you play too aggressive, your opponent can play economically, and you'll lose that way. So the way that this map typically goes is that you send these infantries immediately to the bases, and the labs enable the recon production. So there are different ways that this map can, like build orders can go on this map. And like I showed in the preview of this video, is that there's lots of different replays that I've been farming recently, more than even what's here. And we'll go through those in the second part of this video. But the first part of this video shows how the gameplay is akin to StarCraft 2, where you can be attacked by your opponent if you go to saturate your economy immediately. So what happens here on this replay is that player 2 starts to rush player 1, and player 1 kind of suffers for it, and there's a tit-for-tat kind of development phase that goes on here. So I'll point out, there are different ways that this replay can go. Like this recon could go to the top, and later in the video we'll go over all of those replays that I just pulled up recently. So this is the kind of developmental phase that I like to see, is where you can attack your opponent early on, and you can kind of go behind enemy lines, and you can, you know, there's stuff that you can do. And this is actually a pretty boring replay. There's 9 of them, and this one is actually pretty smooth, but you'll see more exciting cross-map kind of gameplay, development phase, different to this one. But anyways, just to get an idea of how this map works, this is it. So there's kind of like attacking and economy and stuff like that you have to think about, and you're under threat from your opponent pretty much from like day 4. You can possibly be attacked by your opponent. And so this is kind of how things work out. And take note that by the time it's turn 10 on this map, there's still economy that you can go and capture. There's still lots of things on the map that you can do. And also I'll point out that beyond turn 5, like there's certainly different things that players could do. Like you could stack mech in the center here. Like the center is really valuable. So you could stack mech here, for example, which is something that I haven't really explored a whole lot. Most of the replays entail just kind of tank versus tank, like tit for tat, fighting in the center. And yeah, and so we'll see more of that in a minute when I introduce the replay stuff. Yeah, and so this is typically how it kind of goes. And I don't really see this kind of gameplay with Map Committee at all, across the entire board. And again, it's not just this website that the Map Committee exists, but it's in other games like Advance Wars by Web, War Groove, Warside, and Athena Crisis. The culture of map making is identical. In all of those games, it's identical to what goes on with Map Committee maps. Where like for the first 10 turns, there's like no variety of build orders and stuff, and if there is any variety, it's very, I don't know, to me this seems quite insignificant, but mind you, I don't play Map Committee maps, and I'm not saying that they're, like I did say in the past that they're bad and stuff, and it's because I don't really like playing chess. And it's because I see this game has an economy to it that this Map Committee just doesn't want anything to do with, if it's coming from me, at least. So when I mention these things to the Map Committee, they just don't care. And other people get treated really nasty as well. So it's neglect. That's what it is. That's what they do. So anyways, like I said earlier in this video, there's a standard of proof that I introduced to all of my maps that tests all of the replays against each other, and it kind of sniffs out which replay is the best and which is not the best, and how things can go according to the build orders and the variety of movesets that exist from those build orders. And so build orders, like you'll see, the names of all of these games have to do with which build order that's being executed. And you'll see that the first 4 replays here are all titled 1 with A, B, C, and D next to it. And basically you'll see that 1A is the recon rush that heads towards the south with an infantry backing it. That's one build order and moveset. The second build order is the same one, but it's with a recon backing it up. So it's like the double recon rush to the north. And then this one is the double recon rush to the south. And the last one is the infantry boost, and then you build a tank afterwards. Which I'll point out right now is that this map I've not really tested out how this game plays, because I have limited time. This replay, I think that people could, I think that a build order exists and like a moveset exists where player 2 doesn't just, take a massive advantage, because honestly this board state just doesn't look incredibly fair. But I think it does exist, and it could be farmed. And so if people are interested, after I introduce my standard of proof, you can try and find that replay that exists where player 2 doesn't just automatically win. Which, at this point, that's what that board state looks like. But I have faith and confidence that player 1 can pull out ahead. So the next set of replays is 2A, 2A, 2B, 2C. And in this replay, the build order is where player 1 goes for the city capture down here, which when you capture this city with the first infantry, what happens is it disables player 2 from being able to do the double recon rush. And so I know that there are some complicated moves that you have to make when you're defending a double recon rush in this game and in this one as well. Like, this board state looks... a lot of people will look at this board state and think that this map is just broken and that there's no way that player 1 could possibly come out ahead. And ignore this co-op power here, it doesn't exist. This board state to a lot of people just looks completely broken, and if you go through the move set here, it works out just fine. And so you'll see that player 2 will capture their bottom base here. And that's because this infantry blocks this recon. And so happily that you'll be able to capture this bottom base. And then the game kind of carries on. I think this replay could have been played a bit more efficiently. I think that the recon follow-up, where did it go? I don't think that this recon was the right move to make, but anyways. So, that's just one example of a very difficult board state that exists. Kind of like this one, I think there's a solution for this. Kind of like there's a solution for that previous board state we just looked at. But it's kind of hard to figure it out. And it took me a long time to figure out these replays. Each of these replays, I've played over 230 games on these maps or more, 250 in terms of like playtesting to farm these replays. Because finding the correct move is not easy. Especially in these difficult kind of board states where there's like a double recon rush. Like, it takes a long time to figure this stuff out, and yeah, so there's that. So anyways, like I was saying, is this build order 2, the previous one was 1, and this build order 2 entails player 1 capturing the city, and we'll see the different board states that exist for the different movesets and stuff. And so with this build order in particular, a reminder is that player 2 cannot build the follow-up recon. And so what happens, and so what happens is similar to what we saw in the first replay, 1A, is that there's a similar kind of board state that plays out like this. And we've seen something similar to this in the previous replays. And so we'll see the next one, the next board state, is 2B, which is going towards the south, and we'll see how this one plays out nicely. I believe that this recon could have gone and sat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, never mind. Yeah, forget what I just said. Yeah, and so that's how this replay plays out. And this guy will capture after a little bit of a delay, which will equalize things for player 2. And then 2C, we'll just skip over this one. Basically, it's similar to 1D, where player 2 captures the infantry, but in 2C, player 1 will capture the city here, and so they can't afford, player 2 can't afford to build that tank. Yeah, and so this is how this game plays out. And it's interesting where if player 2 gets the infantry boost instead of going for the day 2 recon, then what ends up happening is player 1 is the one who's on the offensive. So a few things about this map is that the recon rush isn't necessary for player 2, but it usually is necessary for player 1 because they're typically the one being rushed by player 2 with the recon. And if you get this recon and player 2 decides to economy, then you're kind of reversing the roles with respect to like how player 1 plays out and how player 2 plays out. So yeah, and so this replay you'll see that player 1 is the aggressor and player 2 is the defensive economic player. And so that's how that goes. And then the third set of replays that we have here is a totally different build order altogether. And this is the one where player 2 decides to capture the lab immediately to cancel the defensive recon, or the offensive, or to cancel the recon from player 1. And so the move for player 1 on this replay, I think there's a different thing that you can do to counter this. But again, I have limited time, and this is just one that I know works. And this is how it goes, is you capture both of these guys. And we'll see how it goes. And it's a little bit delayed capturing the bases because, you know, your first 2 infantry are not capturing the bases. So we'll see how it plays out, which is really similar to another replay. Something I'll note right now is that although there are slight variations between all of these build orders and things, the difference between the board states when you reach like turn 8, turn 9, turn 10, the board state is like completely different across all of these games. And when I get through these next 2 replays here, we'll go through them quick, I'll kind of scale over the board states at like turn 9 and we'll see the differences between each replay. Because even though these things seem kind of minimal at the beginning of the game, as the game progresses, the board state changes. Like it's a very unique and different board state. And just one other thing I'll mention is that I'm sure that when you're watching these replays that you'll see things that could be done differently, and I don't doubt that. And if you want to do things differently and you want to claim that the map is broken, then you have to produce replays, unfortunately. So sorry for the lazy, but yeah. So anyways, this is how this one goes. It is similar to something like we've seen. And I think we've seen enough here. We've seen enough because it's quite similar to the rest of how the board states go. And then here's this one, just to play it through so we can see with our eyes that it works. And again, this one is like player 2 is reversing the roles, where player 1 is now the aggressor instead of player 2. And so this is how this goes. That roll on this recon, sometimes I think it's like 50-50. Sometimes you'll just kill this recon, and you can capture right away, and sometimes you don't. And that's just the nature of the map. And so this is this here that we see. And yeah, so this is basically the standard of proof that I use. So like I said, is the great thing about this standard of proof is that you can compare the board states according to the build orders that people executed. And we'll go as far as we can on this one. We're going to day 9 on all of these, the beginning of day 9 for player 1. And this one we can't do that. We'll just leave it at day 1. And yeah, that's the great thing about this standard of proof, is you can map the different board states according to the different build orders and the movesets that people made. And then you get to you get to compare different board states in a really cool way, like you can, like I'll show you right now. So this is turn 9 across the board, and the board state just looks really unique and different across each replay. This one is faulty, and you know what? We're just going to do this. So yeah, let's take a look. Pretty sure on this replay there's a lot of fighting, so development happens a lot less rapidly. There's a lot more fighting in some replays versus others. And so this is the cool thing about when you produce replays, is you can compare and use your eyes to see things, so now we're going to start the portion of this video about the standard of proof in this community writ large. It's nothing like this. The standard of proof is nothing like this. I've never seen or heard anybody talk about creating and exhausting all of the possible replays that exist on a map, all of the possible build orders and move sets that are actually that don't lose you the game automatically. Because in this game, if you make the wrong move against an opponent who plays perfectly, you're just, especially in the first 10 turns, you're just going to put yourself at a huge disadvantage. And a player who knows what they're doing isn't going to let go of that advantage. So the funny thing, so here's how things go typically in this community, which probably everybody can relate to, is somebody will make a claim against your map and say that, Wilky, this map is busted. Player 1 has a huge advantage, or player 2 has a huge advantage, or this or that. So, for example, if I say that you cannot win this map automatically before turn 10, or you cannot win on this map automatically, that replay doesn't exist. And then what happens is people won't produce a replay to disprove the thing that I've said, or people won't back up their claims with a replay in this community writ large. People just don't do that. And what they do, what people consider to be proof in this community, is referring to the Bible of map making. It's crazy. It's so funny. So this map committee, it's so funny. People will always refer to the map making Bible as though it's proof when I present to people things that contradict what the map making Bible says. And I can show you the fair board states that exist across all of the different build orders on this map. So it's just hilarious. So like I said, the standard of proof in this community is referring to the Bible. It's referring to a text that somebody wrote, when in reality, proof is a physical phenomena. Proof is something that you see with your eye, you hear it with your ear, you taste it with your tongue, you smell it with your nose, right? So proof is a physical phenomena. It's not something that somebody wrote down, okay? It's not a rule. A rule is not a physical phenomena. So, that kind of describes the nasty treatment that I've received on this website forever. So, and again, I'll just remind everybody that it's not just this website, it's not just this game, but it's the entire genre of turn-based strategy that is akin to a game like Advance Wars. And so that's Warside, that's War Groove, and that's Athena Crisis, and that's Advance Wars by Web. So no matter where you go, if you design maps alternatively to this map committee, you get treated like shit by the community writ large, and it's enabled by the map committee. And in fact, there's even a handful of map committee members who will just riff on and join in on the fun of memeing on wilkyb, because it's too much effort to go through the replay and create proof of the claims that people make. And instead, the map committee are just much happier when community members refer to the Bible of map making that they've created, that they've written down, which is not a proof. So it's really funny to me here how proof and scientific reproduction, not to sound biological, what the hell, but when you provide proof that can kind of disclaim or it works against the map committee's rules that they've written down, they'll treat you like shit, and the entire community will treat you like shit. And if there are people who support me, they're silent about it because they see the nastiness that goes on in this community if you don't follow the map making rules on this entire genre. This map committee exists across the entire genre. So I don't like that. And like I said at the beginning of this video, is significance should be brought to significant things. And the group of people who are responsible for doing that, first off, is they're not bringing significance to a significant thing here. They dogpile on me when people mention my name in the community, or if I try to bring attention to my map because I think it's significant. They'll just say nasty things. They'll destroy the post with nasty comments, which a lot of people will upvote, because the proof in this community is the map making Bible. And if you don't follow that Bible, then the community will be sicked on you by this map committee. And so the reason that the explanation as to why the community members are nasty to me is because, like I've said, is the only way to reach significance in this community as a map maker is if you follow the map making rules. Because if you do not follow the map making rules, you'll never have significance brought to your map, and other people recognize that. And so what happens is that they just troll me, because if you troll wilkyb in the context of map making, then it gives credit to you in the eyes of the map committee, because they hate me. So, and a funny thing that I'll mention right now too is that the maps that I used to make, like when I first started on this website, I was bad at making maps. And in the past 2 years, I've created maps that have a standard of proof, kind of like the one that I'm showing you in this video. But previously, my maps were just not, they just weren't really that egregious anyways. Like, this kind of a map is actually very similar to a map committee map in a number of ways that I've described at the beginning of this video. Is that the base, so that just to be clear, this is my map that I started developing over the course of like 2 years when I started on this website. And then I took a break for a while, and I came back in the past 2 years where I've come up with this standard of proof. But before I had a standard of proof, like I do, I would make a map like this, and it was really bad at first, and people would just knock on me constantly for it. And that basically made it okay for the community writ large as I was developing this map. Over the course of like two and a half years or something like that. The first version of this map was really terrible. It looked something like this. And then I developed it further into something that was more polished and just better. And then, so from day one, okay, I put comm towers at the center of the maps here. So this is something that's akin to like Warcraft 3. You put objectives near the center of the map, which kind of initiates people. It gives them a good reason to like fight over objectives on the map to initiate player-player interaction. And so, like I mentioned on the map committee maps, is there is no player-player interaction for the first like 10 turns, and that's also true on this map. It's just very similar to map committee maps. And so it's funny because I do things like this, which is basically like, it's good. This is a good map design principle. And the map committee and community members, when they would look at this map and they would comment nasty things and stuff, it was because of just completely harmless ideas in the first place. And then when I started developing maps completely different to what the map committee does, they just completely ignore me now. Because they don't know what they're looking at and they don't know how to test for it. So, yeah, so this map committee is just nasty. They're made up of some nasty people, and then people see that this is normal in this community, in this society. But what's normal is not necessarily good. What's normal in this community is to shit on people who don't follow the map committee's rules, and to neglect them, to not communicate with them, and to make a mockery of them at every opportunity possible. And like I said, there's credit to be gained with this map committee if you shit on people who don't follow the map making rules, like me. And it's a really, really awkward situation for people who see what's going on here. So, what I would like to see changed is, I would like this is never going to change, but I would like to see the attitudes of people in this community not be assholes. But the thing about this is I'm creating a Discord community that you can come to, and you can create maps alternative to this map committee. I mean this literally, if you go anywhere in this genre and you share with people that you're producing maps different to this map committee, you will receive nasty treatment, and people won't want to associate with you because of the nasty treatment that people will give you along the way. You will be dragged through the mud, and people will point and laugh at you like they do to me in this community. So anywhere in this genre, if you go to a Discord channel or a Reddit or something and you pipe on about making maps differently, you'll be treated like shit. So you can come to my Discord channel and I will protect you from being bullied, from being well, it'll still happen, but like, just know that in this community there are people who know that there are maps that you guys are good at making that are not allowed by this map committee. And so in my Discord channel, you can make maps according to the good ideas that I know that you guys have, that when you test for them, nobody cares about you. But I do. I care about you. And I think there are people out there in this community who care about alternative map making ideas, who may not necessarily care about you, okay? But I do, because I think you have good ideas. And we, as a community of alternative map makers, can bring significance to these maps, to each other. So people are like, people in this community are being crammed into a single bucket of map making ideas. And then when I start to, build up a bucket of my own for other people to join in, the map committee knocks it over at every opportunity possible. So, so people see what's going on in this community, and it's intimidating. This map committee is intimidating, and they'll bully the shit out of you, and they're not open-minded. They're not nice people, in my experience. They've not been nice to me, so I'll end this video on this note now, is that when Grubby when Grubby comes to this genre and he plays the maps that have been made across this genre for the past 20 years, which is chess-like, it's not StarCraft 2-like, it's not real-time strategy-like. When Grubby, an RTS gamer, comes to this genre on Warside and plays for like 2 days and stops playing, and I don't want to hear it's because it's unpolished, okay? If Grubby came to any game in this genre and played on a map as it has been developed for the past 20 years by this map committee, he wouldn't play it for any more than like a week, because it is competitive and there is something to it. But Grubby would recognize that this game could play out similar to like a real-time strategy, akin to what I've been developing for the past like 2.5 years. So it's hilarious to me that when Grubby comes to this community and he doesn't play the game for any more than like 2 days, I'm telling you guys, if he came to this community and played on map committee maps, he'd lose interest. So when I develop maps akin to StarCraft 2 and real-time strategy, and there's like a tit-for-tat stuff that goes on, honestly, I think Grubby would have a lot more fun playing on my kind of map than he would map committee maps. And I mean that honestly. And that's because of the kind of game that Grubby comes from. I'm sure that if, Magnus Carlsen or whoever came, or Levy, Gotham Chess came to play map committee maps, he would enjoy that probably a lot more than he would enjoy my kind of map, because they're just different. It's like comparing apples to oranges, right? They're just different, and they're both delicious. But whenever I try to introduce the orange that is my map to this map committee, I'll try to show them how you peel the orange so that you can get into the core content of gameplay. And then when people can't make it past like turn 6 because there's just difficult build orders and stuff, like I'll try to show them, like, guys, there's a different way to peel this orange where you can peel it all off in one piece even, right? And they just don't listen to it. They don't like it because it's different, and then they bite into the orange when it's not been fully peeled properly, and then they're revolted by this thing, right? So that's what I have to say about that, about this whole thing in general here. I don't like addressing drama, but it is necessary because, like I said, as people in this community are intimidated by this map committee, they're intimidated by how rude they are and how rude the community members can be to you if you don't align with the map committee's rules. That's been my experience. So I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed by this map committee, and I'd like to see things change. I'd like to see things change, and that's basically all I have to say in this video. I think there's probably a thing or two that I'm missing, but I hope you can riff with what I say. Honestly, I think if you disagree with what I'm saying, across this entire... It's funny because what I'll do is I'll introduce this kind of video to like family friends or like people who are adults in my life, and they agree with what I demonstrate in these videos. And it's just really interesting. Like, if you're part of this community, you are very influenced by this map committee, because when I introduce these videos to people who are even familiar with this game, they don't want to take part in this community. Like, I'll try to get my friends to play this game, and they don't want to take part of this because it's just really nasty. It's terrible what goes on here. So people see this and they don't want to get involved, and it's really silly. So I want people to get involved because there's amazing maps that can be made from this map designer that this map committee is blocking you from making. So join my Discord channel, and let's start making some more competitive maps. Not more competitive, but let's start making different maps that are competitive in different ways. So come join my Discord, and yeah, join my Discord, like and subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you in the Discord. Okay, thanks guys. Cheers.